Hi everybody, Dr. Lena Rodriguez here. I'd like to say retired sociologist, but the truth is old sociologists never die really because we can't help ourselves. We're endlessly fascinated by people and society, so you can't turn it off. Now, I'm calling this video Arguing with Zombies, which is the title of Paul Krugman's new book. And in it, he goes for those usual economic arguments that the Republicans and Conservatives all over the world use, which are, let's give the rich tax cuts and then they'll employ more people and they'll put more money in and they'll do this. And they don't. They never do. And it hasn't happened the last 40 times anyone's done it. It just doesn't happen. But it doesn't matter because they keep rolling it out again. And apparently in the US, they've snuck in a few more tax cuts in these huge bills that are going through and not going through. So, regular intrepid viewers, you will know how I feel about the stock market and the economy. So why, when the world's been closed for 6 weeks, everywhere, trading has ground to a halt. Everywhere's been shut down, and yet the stock market's only gone down this much. It's a miracle, really. Well, what does it tell you? It tells you two things. It tells you that it's being artificially propped up, and it also makes the distinction that I make often on this channel, which is forget the stock market, just forget about it as a measure of the economy, because the two things are not related. So part of arguing with zombies is people just keep saying, look, if the stock market's good, then it must be good. May not. So I'm going to have a look first up at the economy, which is where you and I live. We live in an economy that is socially determined, and it does impact on our lives very closely as opposed to the stock market. So let's have a look. What is happening? I'm using the regular rider weights, and I've got my little cutie Sibylla oracles if we need clarifiers. So I'll go global and then the US. So the global economies. Let us have a look. Oh, I think all my cards will be upside down. Yeah, no surprises here, first off. None of this is about expansion and stuff. It's about holding on to what you have very tightly, holding it close to your chest, whatever country you're in. Okay, behind that, this is every country literally being in the wars, and there's a ruthlessness that, you know, is unfolding in how we handle it. But this is taking the fight up front, victory at any price, clinging on to the fantasy of capitalism, all of that, but it's an active warlike state on everybody's economy. You have a tension that's happening, and it's happening in the US. Here we go, first digression. It's happening in the US, Australia, Canada, the UK, between the government spending its way out of trouble, which even the conservative ones have done, and now they'll try and pull the plug, right, everywhere, and leave people high and dry. You know, so that can be in the form of these one-off stimulus checks and so forth. Better than nothing. I'm not criticising it, but it's not going to cut the mustard when your next month's rent is due. So you've got this tension between those who want to change everything, seeing this as a window for permanent change. This is a chance to look at how we talk about money, how we think about the economy, how people interact with the economy, and doing it really differently. Versus let's go back to business as usual. And that would be the 40% taking more than the 60, and when you get down to the fine print, the 1% taking the whole of the goods. This is global, we're talking. I'm sure the US is no exception to this. We'll get to in a minute. This, I think, is representing all leaders. They've moved into the emperor mode. They've got more power than they usually have. People are listening to them in a way they don't usually. But now we're coming to a watershed in this crisis. And that watershed is, well, everyone's been pulling together in most countries. Now they're starting to pull apart or starting to react to the lockdown or starting to want to get back to business as usual, being ripped off or doing the ripping off. Which side are you on? So there's this emperor energy that leaders are struggling with. And one of the upsides of this, I think, for those who are dictators and emperors, such as the usual players, North Korea, Russia, even Turkey, and so forth, I think this is a hard time for dictators. They don't have to worry about what people think for now, but there's going to be a flow on. There will be a respite for the global economy a few months out, but this is the famous Four of Wands. I see this differently than a lot of people do. It's traditionally the card of the wedding. Isn't it great? I always think it's a smaller celebration than it could be, because there's something always with this card of not quite making the full celebration. So to put that together, global economies, who's going to win between? This is a time to bring in, say, universal basic income in many countries versus I want to go back to exploiting my workers and being like Elon Musk or any of these huge employers who treat their workers so badly. Denmark's interesting. Denmark is doing all this experimental stuff, and it too has bailed out some of its bigger businesses. But the difference is they've said there are conditions attached and they mean it. So you can't go berserk. But I'm going to put up a link to the difference between being a McDonald's worker in Denmark and being a McDonald's worker in the States. So for those of you who want to read it, it's really quite interesting. So now we're going to look at the US economy. And I'm here to tell you, I really don't trust or care what the stock market figures are. Because really they're just the big boys bailing each other out, propping each other up. You buy mine and I'll buy yours. Eventually it'll crumble too. They won't be able to keep up this circus much longer. I should use my circus cards again. But in the meantime, what is happening with the US economy? The US economy. Where are we? We're at the middle of May. The US economy. US economy. Right. Have a look here. Look, it's not fantastic, but I'd be suspicious if it was. So the way to handle this tension, this might sound trite and a bit woo-woo or rainbow, but the way to handle this deprivation is actually through kindness. So that might sound kind of counterintuitive, but if you're kind to people and you've got enough to share, please share it, can make a huge difference. People are really on the breadline and under the breadline. So this is actually really important, and it's come up as a centre card on the economy, being made an offer. Now, on the more cynical side, Johnny from Taro's Apprentice calls this the false knight. There would be plenty of room to support that position, but my instinctive response from the heart was kindness will help people get through it. Behind are the days of relative comfort, and let's stress the relative, because if you're on minimum wage or even double minimum wage, things have not been that comfortable. But most first world countries, and especially America, has been able to keep up the narrative that just keep that credit card rocking along, and you too can be part of the American dream. See how the roads are slightly too big for the figure. This is like everybody's debt outstripping what they can actually afford. And there was that study that was quite interesting, that in the 70s, a single male breadwinner could support their family and run a car and have an annual holiday for, I think it was 48 weeks salary or wages, and now it's 53 weeks, meaning it doesn't add up. So the robes were always too big on the American dream. So it was like, if you could see someone else had it, you might get it one day. So everyone bought into the dream, you know. Dynasty and these shows had a lot to answer for during the Reagan years. Everyone suddenly wanted to live in, you know, a McMansion in Dallas, you know. Please spare me. Now, underneath this is the heartache and pain, right? So the knight, I feel, is coming as an antidote to the heartache and pain. So if you are aware of people in your friendship network, in your neighbourhood, in your extended families who are doing it tough, go through your pantry, see what you can spare. Actually offer to take people food and so forth. Anything can help, and it's really important. So the Queen of Swords over the economy, it's not a fun card, the Queen of Swords. She's looking for a just distribution. Well, she can whistle for that, can't she, really? You know, we've got a lot of work to do anywhere to get real fairness in distribution of wealth. But she's there to remind America about this divide. Why are some experiencing such severe trauma, heartache, pain, deprivation, and others, not just who aren't, but who are making profit from that pain? It's like putting Jared in charge of everything. I mean, when he's not hanging from the chandeliers in his latex, he's in charge of making all these horrible decisions about piracy, really, stealing the PPE gear and stuff and selling it on. This is Jared doing this, allegedly, Entertainment Channel. Okay, economy, be thrifty. Suddenly everyone's baking again. Suddenly we're all darning socks. It's gone back to the 50s, and I'm not sure that's the best place to be. But in any event, hold on to your money. More pain to come, but I didn't want to end on that. And it's going to lead to more energy. Look, the war generation, the greatest generation and all of that, God knows they had to put up with shortages and real fears and concerns, particularly in the UK and Europe at that time, like Syria now. And it can make people go one of two ways. So it's important to get the bit between your teeth sort of thing, and keep up the energy for November. Keep up the energy. All right. So, what else are we handling here? The search is on, of course, for a vaccine. Now, I tend to worry. I think the first vaccine may not be the best vaccine. But wouldn't it be ironic if China comes through with the first vaccine? And what is Trump's game with China? I should actually ask that, because in January he was thanking President Xi for being so transparent and marvellous and how efficient and what a good relationship. And then he found he had to blame someone, so why not China? Let's just have a quick look at that. China's getting really cranky with this schizophrenic nonsense, right? They were prepared to sort of nod and wait him out, but he's such a provocative ratbag, you know, a clear and present danger. They're getting really over it. Talk about arguing with zombies. The Chinese must be thinking, oh my God. So the Yeti's relationship with China. Okay. Oh, he thinks he's in charge. Ah, that's funny in itself. Oh, these are big cards for this question. This is the card of victory. Trump, because he lives in Disneyland, thinks he's in charge and that he's already won. How's that for deluded? There he is, armed with his Fred Flintstone Ace of Wands. Look at me, look at me. I told China what to do. Oh. Yeah, right. But I'm still going to pretend we're friends when it suits me. But here we go. Here we go. The card of karma, fate, destiny. This Disney view of foreign relations, which I'm here to tell you is going very badly now, 3 years in, almost 4 years. I think people in the rest of the world were mystified at first about the Yeti phenomenon, and now they just sort of feel sorry for Americans. I mean, really, sorry, that's when people are being kind, I'm saying. There are other views out there, but none of them are flattering. And the point being, he's playing with the whole world. He thinks he's on top of it. He thinks he's Mr. Tough Guy, and if he's just the loudest and he tweets more than anyone else, and it's the opposite of diplomacy, which he scorns, and this is very obvious, but karma's going to come back and bite him on his considerable buttocks, okay, regarding China. You can't have it all ways. And if China starts putting more and more tariffs on, we in Australia have been so busy sucking up to the US and sucking up to China, we're in this schizophrenic haze as well of what to do next. You know, excuse me. Right. Now, I've been asked to do a read on the new Labor leader in the UK. So US viewers, hang in there. It's really important you engage with the world during this time. This is a very important time because they've got Yeti 2 over there, Boris Johnson, who's doing a spectacularly bad job for all the same reasons. See, what happens is Trump did this and Boris Johnson did this. They get in, they get rid of all the career public servants who spend 30 years working for Conservatives and Democrats and Conservatives and Labor in the Department of Health, the Department of Education, the Department of Defence, all the Department of Justice. You remember the Department of Justice. You used to have one in the US, you remember. Okay. And they get rid of all the people who know how those things work and they replace them with friends of friends. And what happens now, you've got this huge global crisis and these people have been put in these hugely powerful positions, but they don't know how their departments work. So again, you've got this racketeering in the UK and the US. Nurses are now starting to resign in the UK from lack of protective equipment. They can't even get enough equipment into hospitals, you know. So my point is, the new Labor leader, whose name is what? I've got no idea here, I had to write it down. Keir Starmer. He's very important because hopefully he'll be the next leader of the UK who may steer a very different course from Yeti 2. So I'm going to do a quick read on Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer. I know nothing. Keir Starmer. Is he going to get in? What is his story? Keir Starmer. Well, he has a plan. Oh, very calming. Okay. I will just stick my neck out here straight up and say he could well be the next leader. He has a strategy. He has the world in his hands in the sense of he actually understands there is a world outside of his own bedroom, outside of his own club, outside of his own network. At least he has some capacity to engage at that leadership level. He's going to be quiet-ish for now and for the immediate future. I mean, what does that look like? He might be on the news every night for a few minutes with a soundbite in his take, but not saying anything seriously new and big. No big announcements about the new direction of Labor per se. Quiet time, quiet time. The stained glass window, the enigma, the puzzle. He's thinking about how to make it work, i.e. this aberration that is stupid beyond belief, Brexit. Is this a window to not going down the Brexit route? I don't know. That would require more. But in any event, he's not going to make big picture things. He's going to let Yeti 2 fall on his own sword. He's got a bit of a calling. He has the ability to wake people up. Could do that. He's fated to be there. This is not insignificant. These are two major arcana cards. The calling and the Wheel of Fortune, which we just had. So I've only looked at his picture briefly this morning and he looked extremely dreary and forgettable to me, but what would I know? These are big cards. So he might come through if he gets good people and slow and steady win the race. So at this stage, I think things look quite good for whatever his name is, Keir Starmer. Okay, can't go today without looking at the Flynn stuff, the bar stuff. You know what, intrepid ones? We need a win. We so need a win. You know, with something. 2,000 ex-DOJ people have written in saying Barr should resign. Now, although that's huge, they've done it before, he's not going to. And this is what this whole administration has been about. Arguing with zombies, yes, and just bluff. Sheer bluff. So what happens now? Can only the president fire the Attorney General? Can he be impeached by Congress or something? They wouldn't want to start this before an election. So they're hamstrung a bit with this hideous man, Barr. So what can Judge Sullivan do? What's my question? Is he going to drop the Flynn case? Is he going to drop the Flynn case? Oh, is he going to drop the Flynn case? Awful. All right. This is the card of holding money close to your chest. It's also holding information close to your chest. he's running a very tight ship. I don't think you're going to see anything leaked from Justice Sullivan's office. He's very close-mouthed. I think this suggests to me, particularly with the theft right underneath it, right, the card of thieving something and running away, could be an election, Russian outfit. We won't go there. He's massively worried. He understands, of course, the huge thing that's on his shoulders. He's had to deal with the revenge. This night can also be the night of revenge. The revenge of these dreadful, dreadful, paranoid, incompetent, ghastly people. He understands this is a revenge measure, but this is an unprecedented thing in the US. He's evaluating it very carefully. He's looking not just for national precedents, because he knows there aren't any. He's actually looking internationally as well, going, what happens if I do this? Oh, I'm hearing, oh, okay. What I just heard was the problem is, because it's the prosecution wanting to drop a case, although that doesn't happen as a rule, particularly after 2 guilty pleas, it certainly doesn't happen. Legally, he might have to let it drop. Ooh, oh, I hope not. He will definitely let us all know what he thinks. He's personally, I think, privately disgusted with what has gone on. He's unimpressed with the vengeful adolescent thing that is actually potentially bringing the country into full banana republic mode. If you do not have an independent media and an independent judiciary, you do not have an independent country. So he, better than anyone realises, of course, this is so important, but there's some legal complication that might twist his hand. He's not happy. So what'll probably happen is he'll have to say the case is dropped and then deliver a 40-page judgment berating them, you know, really going for them. But to be prepared for that, I guess. Love to be wrong. No one would be happier than me to be wrong on that, and that he just throws their case out. I so hope. And he might kick the can down the road and go, okay, you have to take it back to a higher court than me, because I'm not prepared to sign off on this. I would love that outcome. Okay, guys. Massive love from Australia. I'll be back soon, soon, soon. And remember, save your energy. No arguing with zombies. Oh, I'm putting up 2 things. What am I putting up? I'm putting up, oh, yes, that article on being a McDonald's worker in Denmark versus the US. And also Politico ran a series of 30 thinkers and what they think the coronavirus can teach us. And so although those of us who are sort of alternative people probably follow these sort of things, these aren't alternative people, they're economists and different things. But they had quite an interesting and positive take on what we can learn. So I am putting those 2 links up, but you probably won't get them if you watch on a phone. I'm going to put them as a comment and pin it. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for your donations, and big love. Bye, 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 bye.